nerds, what's up? Today's video is going to be my November wrap up because I can't believe it's already December. What the heck is happening? But let's just get right on into this. So the month of November was the Femme Fatale event, and I co-hosted with Zarriah from Zarriah Rose, who was the creator of the readathon for the month, as well as Clara from Clara Reads Books. And I made 3 different challenge videos this month all about feminism and just things about girls in books and authors and all that stuff. My key this month was to either read books about women or read books by women, and most of them did both. I think almost all of them did both, at least to some extent. Starting with my stats, guys, I actually did my stats before starting to film this video. You guys should be so proud of me. So I had 7 books on my TBR this month, and of those 7 I read 6 of them, but I did read 7 and most of an 8th book, but I'm not going to include it in any of these stats because I haven't technically finished it. I have like 30 pages left. I will talk about it in a second. I read 3 adult novels this month, and I read 4 young adult novels this month, and that is crazy to me. I normally stick with like high percentage of young adult, and this month it was almost even, and if I had finished my 8th book it would be even. I read 1 sci-fi and then 4 fantasies and 2 paranormal, although one of those paranormals could be fantasy, could be sci-fi. I put it under paranormal. Meh, we'll talk about it. I read 1 ebook, 3 audiobooks, and 3 physical books. And lastly, I gave 3 5 stars, 3 4 stars, and 1 3-star book. So I had a really good reading month. I am hyped about it. In total, I read 2,844 pages. What? Those are my stats. Starting with my 3-star book. If you guys have been watching my vlogs, you have been getting some like small reviews of these as I finish them. My only 3-star book this month was Their Fractured Light by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is the 3rd book in the Starbound trilogy by the 2 authors. I listened to this on audiobook, and it's a sci-fi novel. Now obviously I can't talk about this one much, but I gave the other 2 books 4 stars, and throughout this series I've realized that really they're more like 3-star books, and then this one was a 2-star, and I bumped them up each because the audiobooks for all 3 books were so good, and I don't think I would have been able to get through them without the audiobooks because they're really well done. So I gave each one of them an extra star than I probably should have because I liked the audiobook format so much on these books. So if you haven't heard of these books yet, these are like, they've been around town, and the covers are freaking gorgeous. The whole series follows 2 different characters per book, and then they all kind of wrap up into one story. If you've ever read Illuminae but you haven't read these, they're very similarly formatted in that facet of it. It's not like they're mixed media or anything, but they have a similar setup in how the books have different characters and then they all wrap up together. These Broken Stars follows a boy named Tarver and a girl named Lilac, and Lilac is the daughter, she's basically the heiress of this hugely rich and famous man who he's done some big stuff in the private sector of how this sci-fi world runs. And then Tarver is this really young military guy who we don't really know why, but he's been given some high esteem in the military for something that happened in the past, and we don't know why starting out with the book. So they meet on this ship, and there's a shipwreck, and they end up shipwrecked together. These books are all high in romance. They all are very sci-fi. There's like spaceships and intergalactic crap and all that stuff, non-human beings and things like that. I started out really intrigued by the beings that I don't want to talk about them at all other than the fact that they're there. They were super interesting and I really liked the concept, but then as we got to the climax and the ending of this series, I just felt like it was a little bit lackluster. It was very predictable. Meh. One of the 4-star books that I read was for Fall Into Fantasy, and it was The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta. Oh my gosh, this was so good. I really liked it. This is kind of a Mulan retelling is the best way that I can describe it, although it has way more fantasy, like magic involved, and there's different like reasonings, but the basic premise of a girl is not allowed to go to something because she's a girl and she wants to take the place for the family. So this is about a girl named Theodora, and she finds out that she knows she has magic, but she doesn't really know how to control it, and she finds out that if she can control it, not only could she go to this thing that she has to go to as a boy, but she could literally become a boy if she wanted to. The 1 star that was lost for this was because it felt a little rushed. The ending was really messy in my opinion, but overall I just really loved the premise. The magic was super fascinating, really like almost terrifying, I think, the way that it was set up. Like it was like giving me anxiety, like thinking about the magic in the form that it is in this, because it's like almost its own sentient thing within you, and it was really freaking me out. I also read this book really fast. It was just so fast paced, so I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it did have a little bit of issue for me in the fact that it did feel a little bit rushed at the same time. It's like there were things that I liked about how fast it felt, but there were things that I was like, you probably needed a little bit more time to delve into that. And also the ending definitely didn't feel as fleshed out as I would have liked it to. Overall, a great book. My next 4-star read was Blue Lily Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. We read this we started out with the Sassy Book Club. We read The Raven King, me and Spencer, Chelsea, Rhiannon, Bex, and Becky, and then we have continued our read along, and we will be reading The Raven King, but we probably will wait to have a live show until sometime in January, so we're taking a little bit of a hiatus on that just because December and holidays and birthdays and bleh. We had a live show on Spencer's channel, so I'll link that in the cards. This was a 4-star book for me. The series so far has gone 4, 2, 4. Definitely liked this book better than I liked the Dream Thieves. The Dream Thieves was like so weird and confusing. I had no idea what was going on throughout the whole thing. But this one I definitely felt more understanding of what was going on. It felt kind of like a mystery. I did really like a lot of it. I think that Maggie Stiefvater's writing and her magic system forms just don't vibe very well with me, and I think that's why this series is not going to get to 5-star. If I had to predict, I mean obviously I'll find out if I love The Raven King. It's just something about her writing, like there's so much unknown about it and nothing being told to us about like how everything is working, that it's just like gimme, but it's not being given. I was saying that in the live show that like our main character is kind of blue, but really she is a secondary character who happens to have a point of view in this story, which is like really weird because it's just not done very often. But yeah, I feel like the main characters are definitely more of the Raven boys, and then she's just also given a perspective, which is weird, but true, I think. This is what's so crazy about ratings. What even are ratings? The next book I have here is The Unkindness of Magicians. So good. I loved this book. I'm already planning a reread. I definitely want to read it again in 2019. I want to physically read it. It feels like it's an adult Harry Potter book. It's an urban fantasy, adult novel. It takes place in New York, but there's the unseen world, which are all the magicians, and every so many years the houses of the magicians all come together and they fight in this tournament. Whichever house wins the tournament rules the unseen world for the following ever so many years until the next tournament. So intricate, and the magic was intricate, and everything was just so the exact opposite of what my complaints are about The Raven Cycle. This has so detailed and intricate, and like holy shit, it's so good. My 1-star was ticked off because I felt like the ending was a little bit lackluster for me. There was like so many fights, like magic fights that happened throughout this book because it's a tournament, so you're watching like this fight, this fight, this fight, this fight. And I felt like we were building and then we didn't really get a climax. Like there's a murder mystery also happening within this story. It's like a subplot, and when the murderer is revealed, we already knew by then who the murderer was, but so the murderer gets taken care of in the way that he gets taken care of, and I just felt like it wasn't done enough. And then there's also a big fight with another thing, and that's like the big climax, and it didn't feel like enough of a moment. I don't know, like there was just so many of those, and then I wanted something even bigger, and it just fell a little bit flat for me at the very end. But oh my god, this book is so good. So I listened to this book on audio, and I feel like that was a little bit of a detriment to me because there are so many characters and players. There are houses, and usually the houses, you know, stay within their families, but in this tournament, all of the like younger generation, they're all like playing for the other houses, and so there are people who are not related and in houses, and then there are people who are related that are in opposite houses. It was a lot to follow for an audiobook. For me, I definitely prefer that type of a story to be read physically because I sometimes struggle with such intricate details in an audio format, but whew, so good. Highly recommend. But see, isn't that fascinating that like that's a 4-star book, but the other one's a 4-star book? What? I don't know. I don't know how to do ratings. Ratings are hard. The next 4-star book that I read was Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. Now, this is the sequel to Vicious, which I feel like I own, but where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. I'm an idiot. Vengeful by V.E. Schwab, which is the sequel to Vicious by V.E. Schwab. We did a live show for the Sassy Book Club on my channel last month for Vengeful. That'll be linked in the cards. I gave this book a 4 stars. This is the sequel to Vicious. And so I'm just going to talk about my next 5-star read, which was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and then the sequel, I felt like it didn't wrap up as well as I would have liked it to, or like the way that I would have liked it to. One of the things that I really love about Vicious is that there's no like specifically good guy and bad guy. Like the two people that are you are either for or against both have very big flaws and both have reasons for what they're doing, and so that's what I loved about Vicious so much. And in Vengeful, there's a new character that is introduced, and they are very just the epitome of the evil character that's out to get everything that they want, and you know, will step on whatever toes and heads that they want to. And so that's, I think, why I didn't love this book so much. But this book is about Victor and Eli, who in college were best friends, and they figured out how to turn themselves into superhumans, and they have powers. Think, you know, X-Men. And then 10 years later, Victor is out of prison and he is out to get Eli. He's out to kill him. And we don't know what has happened to go from being best friends to wanting to murder each other. Woo, it's a ride. I highly recommend this. This is no longer my favorite V.E. Schwab book though. I'll get to my new favorite in a minute, but this was my favorite V.E. Schwab book until I read this one most recently. So highly recommend these ones. Let's go right into this next 5-star book, which was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Little mini story for this one is that when this book came out, I must have not looked up the synopsis, or I don't know, but I thought this was a contemporary for a really long time, and then finally I did find out that it was a book this is the one where I like put it in paranormal, but it could be sci-fi, but it could be fantasy. What really is it? I don't know. I never understood why this was the cover. It doesn't seem like it should match, but it does. So this is a book about this world in the future where our sins, essentially, like our violence and things, like if we personally do something violent, then our sins or our violence turns into a monster. And so then those monsters are now feeding on people, and it's kind of like an apocalyptic world. And so there are 3 different types of monsters, and they each are born out of different types of violence, which is super fascinating. And this book follows a girl named Kate, who is a human, and she wants to be as vicious as her leader father. And then there is a boy named August, who is a monster, and all he wants is to be human. My heart at the end of this, it was so good. I can't really tell you anything about it because I feel like I'll spoil something, but holy shit, I need this dark. They're dark, do it, like, immediately. This is my new favorite V.E. Schwab book. I can't believe I waited this long to read it. Like, how dare I not be yelled at enough? Where were you guys yelling at me to tell me to read this? Because my baby August. Those are all of the books that I have officially actually finished as of right this minute, but I'm like so close to finishing The Hating Game. I am on page 322 and there are only 363 pages left, and so I just wanted to like mention that this is probably a 5-star book. Just a quick little insert in this video that you're watching for my wrap up. I ended up finishing The Hating Game last night, November 30th, so I finished it in the month of November. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. This is an adult romance contemporary. It's a hate to love trope, and holy shit, it was so good. I loved everything about it. I loved the romance aspect. There was some sexy times in it, and I really loved that too. I loved this book so much, so I just wanted to quickly say that because I'll probably forget to talk about it in the December wrap-up since I finished it in November, but I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's an adult book, it's a contemporary book, and I read it physically. Yeah. That's it, bye. That is my November 2018 wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. I make videos every Wednesday and Saturday, so you can always hit that little notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post a video, and I'll see you guys very soon with a new one. Bye. I wish I could